It's Saturday night and the mood is right for a little Phil Spector. We're almost done. This is it, baby. Today, tonight, and in the morning. Finishing this thing up. We got a rebuttal to get through here by the prosecution. I believe his name is Mr. Dixon is going to be getting up. Alan Jackson's tag team partner. And we got an hour 37 with him, and then we'll see where we're at from there. But I'm trying to get out just a little bit more before in the morning. But please, come on in, sit down, take a pew. Give it a like, give it a share. Let's rock.
Let's rock.
Hello, everybody. What's going on? Saturday night. This is unusual. Buzz Nation having a congregation on a Saturday night. Hell yeah. So we're doing it because I'm trying to get through this fucking trial of Phil Spector. We're getting ever so close. We're right there. And we've got a few more hours to attend to, which we're going to do an hour and a half here tonight. And we'll see where we're at. See if we can knock anything else out right after this video. I don't really remember what's exactly after, but we'll see. But in the morning, I'm starting early. Hold me to it. 8 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to start, and I'm imagining, if I remember what I was doing in my head on Thursday night, we're going to be going into probably 1-ish that day. So it's going to be a long murder church in the morning. But I had to get in here to get a little bit more done because this will be done tomorrow. And then Tuesday night we start the brand new trial. Season 6 of Murder Church kicks off. Charlie Adelson 2023 trial, right in time for the jury selection and the start of the Donna, his mother, Adelson trial. So we got a lot of cool stuff cooking here at Publicly Buzz. The first episode of that is going to be, we'll probably get into openings, but the very, very beginning is going to be me going over a lot of stuff and why exactly we are here for not only Charlie's trial, but also his mother Donna's. And I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be cool. Right here, 5 a.m. Pacific in the morning. We're going to need some early risers. Wildside, welcome in here. Carrie in the house. Teresa in the house. Bassett Page. Cheney. Carrie. Susan. Therapist you know. All the beautiful people. I appreciate you fine folks for coming through here tonight. Without further ado, we're about to do it. I do want to say we got a wheel rocking and rolling. If keep an eye on everything. If whether you're doing supers, whether you want to be a member and become a part of the book club, whether it's coming through the Cash App, through the Venmo, through the PayPal, I will keep an eye on all of that. We have 5 names on the current wheel. Will we get another one tonight? Only time will tell. But right now, let's get in here to these closing arguments of the prosecution and see exactly what they've got to say after 6+ hours of Linda Kinney Bodden throwing down. She had about 2 extra hours longer than Alan Jackson's closing. So let's see what this rebuttal brings us, folks.
All right, the jurors and alternates are present.
Love you, Susan.
Mr. Dixon, are you ready to present your final argument?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Couple things just to start off with. One thing I can promise you is that I won't be as long as the 2 that went before me, because it's getting late in the day. I even see some appreciation over there. Secondly,
hope everybody's having a good Saturday.
Everyone, thank you for your attention and consideration in this long case. It's been a long time. And lastly, we have a new person here at the council table, Esther Lynn. She's a senior law clerk in the DA's office, and she's helped me try to put this electronics together. So I just wanted you to meet her. After listening to Ms. Kinney Bodden's argument, the defense is really based on this idea that the gun was never in the defendant's hand. Isn't that what they told you? Never was in his hand. Really?
I don't even see Phil.
From that witness,
is he over there? Oh, I think he's over there next to Linda.
Adriana De Souza tell you he saw the defendant with the gun in his hand. Indeed, I did.
What's up,
I
Cheney?
heard him say that, and so did you. Mr. De Souza told us that And now
Like
you're
we're going to be
get
watching a lot of
listen to him.
clips during this.
He was at the door. At that time, he had a gun in his
Refreshing
hand,
the
actually
jury's
lower,
memory after
right hand.
purgatory that they've been stuck in.
Saw a little bit of blood. He said, I think I killed somebody.
Mr. D'Souza was sitting in his car, as you all recall, about 5 o'clock in the morning. He hears this pow. Moments, maybe minutes later, he gets out, he comes to the front door, and there's the defendant. And Mr. D'Souza just showed you how he saw the defendant, Phil Spector, holding the gun. But the defense told us he never had the gun. This was just at the very best. Minutes later, he had the gun. And
Yo,
Mr.
Jessica,
D'Souza told
welcome in
you
here.
He
Hope
had
you're
the
having a good
gun in his
Saturday.
hand and he could see blood. Everything that you heard here from that witness, from Mr. D'Souza, tells you that that's true. How he acted, how he reacted to what Phil
Bassett
Spector
Page, Dr. Jones, thanks for those shares.
did that day. And what Phil Spector did and didn't do that early morning tells you that the gun was in his hand. He heard the pow, he saw the bloody gun in his hand. And
Wild side, I see that share also. Thank you. Appreciate
those
that.
words, I think I killed somebody. I think I killed somebody. Mr. D'Souza looks around and he sees Lana Clarkson slumped in the chair. What was his reaction? And this tells you, I think, a lot about what was going on. Miss Kinney Bodden told you, well, you know, if maybe Mr. D'Souza didn't hear him quite right. Maybe he was calling for help. That's just not the case. What did he do? What did D'Souza do? He fled, and he fled because he was afraid. He saw the defendant with a gun, blood in his hand, telling him, I think I just killed somebody, and he looks in the door, that back door of the castle, and he sees the woman that's been killed. Now, this is a guy that was in the military. This is a guy who had been around guns for quite a while. If there had been a call for help, if there had been a call for aid, do you think he would have reacted that way? No, but he reacted. D'Souza reacted like any of us would. You see a man with a gun who says, I just killed somebody, I think I just killed somebody, and you see the victim just feet away, you're going to run. You're going to react to that. That tells you that what D'Souza saw and heard, the gun in his hand and those words, was exactly right. His reactions are what anybody's reasonable reactions would be. He jumped in his car, and what did he do next? He called. Again, what any of us would do. He called for help. Not for help because Phil Spector asked for it, but because he thought there'd been a murder.
Hi, my name is Adriano. I'm a Phil Spector driver. I think my boss killed somebody. Please, can you send me
You think your boss killed somebody?
Yes, sir. Yes. Because I'm a driver, I'm waiting outside, and I don't know what it is.
Okay, where are you at?
It's 1700 Grandview Drive, please.
1700 Grandview?
Yes.
And why do you believe he may have killed somebody?
Because you have a lady on the floor, and he has a gun in his hand.
Okay, stay on the line. Do not hang up. You're in Glendale?
No, I'm on the Yambra. It's 1700 Grandview Drive.
Did you hear him shoot or anything?
Yeah, I heard like a noise, and then he opened the door, and I think I killed her. And then I'm outside the castle.
Okay, stay on the line. Do not hang up.
Just 2 moments, 2 comments before we go to the next videotape. In that, and I wish I could have held it, but I don't quite have the PowerPoint skills of Mr. Jackson, but as we read that all up there, you can see and you could hear where the CHP officer asked, or Mr. D'Souza told him, he had a gun in his hand. This is just moments after Adriano D'Souza saw the gun in his hand.
What's up, Nosy
This
Rosie?
is the best evidence,
Welcome in here.
I suggest to you, that you could have. This is almost contemporaneous. This is what he had, and yet the defense says there's no gun. Of course it's in his hand. He saw it, and he reacted like any of us would react to someone who has a gun, who says he just killed somebody. I think I just killed somebody. And you see the victim. And here to go on is the call. Oops, we're going to go back. Yeah, there we go. Okay, Esther, thanks. This is the call, the transfer. You recall that the CHP calls is transferred to Alhambra because of the jurisdictional differences.
Alhambra CHP, we got a transfer from an address of 1700 Grandview Drive, reporting that he thinks his boss just shot and killed the woman.
Okay.
He heard the shot and he said there's a woman lying on the floor and his boss told him he thinks he killed her.
Okay, and is it inside the house?
It's inside of a business.
Business?
Yeah. I'll bring him online. He's calling from cell phone 310-488-5548.
Okay, hello?
He's on.
Sir?
Yeah.
Okay, what happened?
Oh my God, again.
Oh, okay, your boss shot someone?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, you heard a shot?
Yeah, I heard the shot outside. Then I am outside the cafe because I don't know what...
Is this a business or residence?
No, it's a residence.
Okay. Have you seen your boss?
Yeah. He had a gun in his hand.
Oh, and where's the man now?
Yeah, come here.
Sir, where's the man? The man with the gun, where is he?
Oh, inside the cafe because I'm outside. I'm afraid to go inside again.
I'd be afraid to go inside too.
Yeah, I saw
This
him with the
motherfucker.
gun.
Yeah, I remember the very beginning of this when we were watching this. At least me, I was thinking, man, this Phil Spector's probably going to try to like somehow implement this dude. Or, you know, I don't know. That was the vibe I remember getting. His driver.
Who did it do?
I don't know. I don't know the lady.
Okay, so stay on the line, okay?
Okay.
This is someone.
Please,
Okay, hold on, okay? Sir, Edith?
yeah.
You said that's your boss. Okay.
Yeah.
Where-
I'm his driver.
You're his driver?
Yeah, I'm his driver.
What do you drive? A taxi or what?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, what are you driving?
I'm driving Mercedes.
Where are you driving to?
Oh my God. Looking up at me.
Follow up.
Okay.
Okay, so
Possible shots fired.
You're the transport
Grandview
service?
Drive at the Castle.
No, I'm a private driver.
I think heard one shot,
Adriano.
and it stated he saw his boss holding his
And
hand
boss's name?
possibly shot at a
It's
woman
a
inside the
Spector.
Castle, 1700 South Grandview.
Field
10
Spector.
minutes further.
Ian?
Spector.
Ian Spector?
Yeah, Field Spector.
That's his name?
Yes.
S-E-A-L?
P-H-I-L.
C-H-I-L.
Spector.
Is he Asian or white or?
Sorry?
Is he a white or Asian? Is he an Asian person, a Hispanic person, or a white person?
No, it's a white person.
And his name is Phil, C-H-I-L?
Yeah, P-H-I-L.
Oh, Phil.
Phil, yeah.
Phil Spector? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry?
Do you see or hear anything else?
I'm outside the castle. I'm not inside anymore. I'm afraid to go inside.
I don't want you to, okay? And what's your name?
Oh, I saw the car.
You're not really sorry?
Yeah, the police car is coming.
Okay, sir. What's your name?
Adriano.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry you gave me that. And your last name?
Called S-O-U-Z-A.
Okay, and your phone number is 310-488-5548?
Yes.
Okay, has the unit made contact with you?
Oh,
You think you saw the police unit?
no, it's coming now.
Okay. So, hold on,
That is,
Yeah,
that, oh, it doesn't.
I, the last call was a broken refrigerator.
Hang up this phone now.
What color's your Mercedes?
It's black.
Make sure that the officer makes contact with you first before I...
Okay.
Okay?
He's trying to be careful, sir. He's tied up.
Okay, so go and talk to him, okay?
That ends the tape, I'm sorry. And I know that that's at least the second time you've heard this. You heard it in Mr. Jackson's argument, but I thought it was appropriate and important to play it to you in light of Ms. Kenny Bodden's argument on a couple levels. One, again, a number of times in talking to the Alhambra dispatcher right there, Mr. D'Souza says that he's afraid. Again, the reaction that you would expect upon seeing a person with a gun who just told you, I think I killed somebody, and you see the victim in the back doorway. That's the reaction you would expect, not what Ms. Kenny Bodden talked about, which I'll get to in a moment. And secondly, I wanted you to hear it, and again, these occurred on February 3rd, 2003, right after this happened, with respect to language. They made quite a big deal about Mr. D'Souza's language. And I think, and I'm going to get to that in depth a little bit more in a few moments, but it's sufficient to say two things. One, there's certainly a difference between someone who speaks with an accent or a slight accent and how they speak and what they hear. Heck, I will admit to you, I can't say Adriana's last name the way he does, and I apologize for that, but I can't. I don't get the accent quite right. But it is clear in these two tapes that he is understanding exactly what these dispatchers are saying and correcting them, spelling Phil Spector's name, correcting him where he is, what car he has. He understands what's going on here. And I'm going to suggest to you now and later that Adriana D'Souza is fluent in English. It is its second language, of course. It's not his native language, but he is fluent in it. Anyone who could stand up to Mr. Brunon for 3 days on cross-examination without an interpreter, you saw him up there, now granted that's a few years later, that's why we wanted to play this, is fluent in English. I'd have a hard time standing up to Mr. Brunon on cross-examination. Maybe any of us would, just as an aside, and this is just an argument. It's always a grilling when you're on the witness stand, and yet you had the opportunity to see him here during this trial and also hear how he responded to the police dispatchers at the time. Just the last issue on this. As we heard in the trial, at the time of the 911 phone call to the CHP, they make a report. Here's the report. It's in evidence at Exhibit 36. And they even record exactly what Mr. D'Souza said. He also talked with the detectives that day. He talked with them almost immediately afterwards, I think the same morning. And during that interview, he said 6 different times what Phil Spector told him. I think I killed somebody. The think was Spector's words, not his. It wasn't qualifying. Adriana D'Souza was repeating exactly what he heard.
What's up, Debbie?
Okay.
Good to see you. I hope you're having a good weekend. Good Saturday night. Rare Saturday Night Live for me. Not the TV show.
And I started to walk and saw the legs of the lady. And I left a message there. And told Michelle, you have to come here. And
Yo, Seeking Justice. Thank you so much for the share on X. Appreciate that.
There's somebody, and please give me a call. And then when I arrived here, I opened the gate.
And what did you say?
And I said, Michelle, you have to come here. I think Mr. Spector killed somebody. But please give me a call. It's like this.
Okay. Yeah, and he says to you, what again? He says,
I think I killed somebody.
I killed somebody?
Yeah, somebody.
Okay.
So I took the car.
You got out of the car?
Yeah, I got out of the car.
And what did he say?
I think I killed somebody. First I was paying attention to him with his face. I think I killed somebody. Then I saw the legs over there. Then I take this position and I saw the body.
again, he repeats to the detectives the same day what happened. And again, that's his understanding. I think during that tape, and you can have it and judge for yourself, I think he actually corrects them at times. I'd like to just return to this idea.
Wild side. Throwing out $2. And we're here in the chat talking about these little things next to the names. I remember the first time I seen them, and I wasn't sure, and they don't pop up on the screen, so anybody would have to already kind of have knowledge of these things, but they have these, they're like rankings, and they actually have XP next to them. You can see right here. Here are the rankings. Top rank, Wild Side, 250 XP. I don't know what the XP means. I don't know that, but top fans and XP. What's the leaderboard? A place for fans to stand out in the community. The top 3 get special badges in a live chat. It resets every stream, so you can always try again. How do you get on the leaderboard? You'll need to collect experience points. Here's how to get them. Send live chat messages, send super chats and super stickers. So, on top of Wildside being the number 1 currently in the chat, she also sent a $2 holler. Boom, and that gets her on something that's special to the Buzz Nation. No, that's just special to us right here, and that's the wheel. A physical wheel that I have right here. I love to spin that bad boy, love to fill her up, love to give away goodies. Also here at the Buzz Nation, I like to do something a little different. There's a lot of people out here that like to take funds, and they don't give something back. I give stuff back. We got some badass magnets. I've got some badass coasters. We've always got badass stickers, and sometimes we give away t-shirts. The Buzz Nation's where you want to be if you're going to be doing any kind of donations, because you can actually get cool stuff. Wildside taking up a spot. Thank you so much, Wildside. Appreciate that. Yeah, the XP thing and the rankings is pretty interesting.
They say Phil Spector didn't have this gun. How people reacted, how Adriana D'Souza reacted, and how Phil Spector reacted at the time that Spector showed up at the back door, gun in hand, and made that statement. Let's look at what, we just looked at what Adriana D'Souza did or didn't do. He reacted like someone would react if they saw a gun, saw a dead body, and the person holding the gun said, I think I just killed someone. How does Spector act? Now, Mrs. Kenny Bodden talked about this a little bit and trying to suggest a different scenario here. It's not reasonable. If Adriana D'Souza went up to that back door and Spector didn't have a gun in his hand and said,
again, I will get you a coaster regardless. You just got to let me know where to send it to. Actually, I think I probably have your stuff.
At least what was testified to here in court, his military background. He was an officer for what, 6 or 7, maybe more years in the British military. Do you think he would have run if someone asked for help? If what Miss Kenny Bodden was suggesting to you is that Phil Spector was at the back door, didn't have a gun, and just said, I need help. Help, someone's hurt. Would his driver run away? Flee to the car? Call 911? No, he would have gone to help him. That's what any reasonable person would do in that situation. But D'Souza didn't do that because Spector didn't do that. He didn't ask for help. He said exactly what Adriana D'Souza said. And what else corroborates that? What else makes you know that that's what happened? What Spector himself did or didn't do. He didn't call 911 for help. And we've talked about this a lot, and I'll talk as this is going on. There were, what, 14 different telephones that Detective Mark Lilienfield came in here and got on the stand and told you that he took a tour of the castle and found all these phones, checked that they were in working order. There were a lot of phones. There was a phone. You went to the jury view at the castle. There was a phone that far away from where Lon Clarkson was, a working phone. There were 2 telephones in the defendant's valise or briefcase on the other chair. You saw that chair, or a chair just like it, in the foyer near the back door. There were 2 cell phones in that chair. He never called for help, never called 911 for help. If what happened is what they're saying happened, wouldn't a reasonable person call for help? Oh my gosh, there's a dead woman here. I need to help her. I mean, even jumping ahead to the so-called science, the woman Lana Clarkson, whose spine is transected, but not all the way, who's breathing for 2 to 4 minutes, wouldn't that made Spector even more likely to call 911 if he thought she was alive? No, not a call for help at all. Why? Because he murdered her. He killed her. He wasn't trying to help her. What else did he do? Mr. Jackson talked about this a little bit. And there's going to be a jury instruction on this for your consideration. He planted the gun next to Lana Clarkson's feet. From what we've just talked about, I suggest to you that there's just no question that Phil Spector walked out to that front door, had the gun in his, as I recall it, right hand. That's what Adriana D'Souza, I recall, showed you from the witness stand. And what did he do with it then? He placed it underneath Lana Clarkson's left foot, right there. And from what Dr. Harold, and I believe Dr. Harold testified about this, there were blood transfer stains on Lana Clarkson's hand right there. Oops, I went too fast. There you go. Right there. And my recollection is that Dr. Harold testified to that and told you that those were transfer smears. Lana Clarkson's spine was transected. She couldn't move. I suggest to you that the evidence shows that the defendant walked back in, realized what was going on, and tried to put that gun in her hand, and then planted it on the floor to make this, to stage this. This was a staged crime scene, to make it look like what the defense is trying to tell you it is. So you can review your notes, and I am hesitant sometimes to dig too deep into my memory because I'm worried that those pages
You're having a good weekend and Saturday night. Thanks for popping in.
Pull up a note that's not quite right, but that's what my memory tells me, and we'll see what yours does. What else did he do? Well, he washed off his hands. He cleaned his hands. Miss Kinney Bodden, and I'm going to digress once in a while and try to answer a couple things that she said. She said, well, no, that couldn't be because Lana Clarkson's DNA was on his hands later on when he was tested. Well, that's true. But we know he went, because Lana Clarkson couldn't move, he went, got that diaper out of the bathroom, put it in the toilet, and tried to clean off her face, tried to alter the crime scene. Washed his hands. He got his hands full of water, and when he's wiping her face, he's rubbing, among other things, off GSR. So how did he get the DNA, Lana Clarkson's DNA, on later? Remember, he's got DNA, her blood, in his pants pockets. Likely, probably, he put his hands in and out of the pockets between that point in time and when he was arrested? I think so. We talked about wiping off her face and wiping the blood off from the gun. Miss Kinney Bodden had a problem with that too. Again, I'd ask you to check your notes and recall Dr. Harold's testimony, the criminalist from the sheriff's lab, and check that, because she, in answering Mr. Jackson's questions, went into some depth about why, in her opinion, the gun had been wiped off because of where the blood was and wasn't on the raised areas of the gun. I hope you'll check that. But Dr. Harold and Miss Kinney Bodden had a hard time with the doctor part, but she is a PhD. I think the only PhD criminalist here that testified. Yeah, she went to some Stuart James classes, but so did Stuart James, I think, went to some of her classes. I could be wrong about that, but I think so. Anyway, that was Dr. Harold's point on that, and I think it was well taken, and I invite you to check your notes on that too. Then what did he do? What did Phil Spector do? He goes upstairs, he dumps his coat. He dumps the white coat upstairs, hangs around up there for a while, and until the police come. The judge will give you an instruction on consciousness of guilt. And again, I will agree with Ms. Kinney Bodden on this. What the judge, he's the guy that's got all the law in this courtroom. What he says is what goes. I think he's going to tell you something just about like this. If the defendant tried to create false evidence that conduct may show that he was aware of his guilt. If you conclude that the defendant made such an attempt, it is up to you to decide the meaning and importance. However, that evidence cannot prove guilt by itself. Ladies and gentlemen, when you look at this evidence, he staged the crime scene. He staged it by planting that gun where it was found by the police. Why do we know that? Because Mr. D'Souza saw him with the gun at the back door and reacted just like I suggest any reasonable person would, confronted with that situation. A few moments ago, I told you I thought, and this is for you to decide, Mr. D'Souza's ability in the English language, but he did testify here for 3 days. He was cross-examined by Mr. Brunon, asked a lot of questions, and they went back through the transcript and found a couple mistakes. I don't know. I don't want anybody to go through the transcript of what I'm talking to you today with that kind of fine-tooth comb, because you probably find some grammatical errors too. Who knows? But let's see what Mr.
Shit, Jessica, thank you very much. Dropping $1 in here with a rainbow. Appreciate that, Jess. Hell yeah. Get you on the board here. Getting a rolling. I think, what does that get us to? 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 5 more till a wheel spin. Thank you, Jessica.
D'Souza did say about this, okay?
English is like a regular subject in the schools in Brazil. I don't know, probably in junior high, something like that. I'm not sure. So basically, each year you have to study a little bit English in the school, but you have to go. It's mandatory. I had to go to this private school to learn English. The first university that I went was a public university, like we have over here, like UCLA, USC. As I stopped going to the university, I went to Army. Sometimes like 5 days a week, depends what time the Army release me. No, I went to a school in Santa Monica and they applied for a student visa, then I went to my country. It's a school in Venice. It was like for people that from another country that they don't have like money to study. I went there just like to try. And I studied like a little bit over there, like probably 3 or 4 months, I think.
And here's the second part, Lisa, what
I saw the gun.
I thought was important for you to listen to.
Before. Yeah. Before I saw the legs, I saw the gun. He said, I think I killed somebody. No, the word that I heard...
I appreciate the hell out of it, Jessica.
The words that I heard were clear. At the end of the day, you're the members of the jury. You're going to decide what happened here. But I suggest to you, based on everything that you've heard, the phone calls at the time, the testimony from Mr. D'Souza, everything that you heard here, including the point I was trying to make is how people reacted, how the defendant reacted, and how D'Souza reacted to finding or seeing the defendant at the back door with a gun, tells you that's exactly true. The words that Mr. D'Souza heard were clear. Mr. Jackson often told you that he wanted to let you know when he was switching gears or guideposts, or I'm not as good at that, but I
Jesus
will tell you.
Christ, dude. Jackson is cringing so hard right now. He's like, oh my God.
That I'm going to talk about something else now. Another thing that the defense wanted you to believe here, they want you to believe that Lana Clarkson was so depressed, so despondent, so suicidal, that although she went to work that day, she bought 7 pairs of shoes that day, nails, hair perfect, radiant earlier in the day when Nellie Hudson saw her, that she went with Phil Spector to his house, rooted around there, somehow found a gun and went, oh, this is what I've been looking for. I need to end it all. I don't think that the evidence shows you that at all. It's for you to decide based on all the evidence, and let's talk about it a little bit. I think that people are, and I will agree with Ms. Kinney Bodden, people have ups and downs. Not everybody's happy all the time, not everybody's down, maybe some are, but not Lana Clarkson. She was an optimistic, happy person for the most part. Did she have a tough year? And we're going to talk about that. Yeah, 2002 was a very difficult year for her, and I'm going to suggest to you it would have been for anybody. But she was working at the House of Blues, and at that stage of her life,
Oh my God.
she just
They are
finished
just going
a
over the
year,
same
or
shit,
better
though.
part of a year, where she really couldn't work because of this terrible injury that she sustained on December 24th, 2001.
I need a meme where someone's just beating a dead horse. Fuck, for this entire, since the closing started for all of these people.
So she needed to work, she needed to get money, she also needed to get back into the business. So she took this job, corporate job as it was, but it had flexible hours for her, let her do her auditions, she learned some money, and most importantly, as her agent told her, Nick Teresian, she'd meet people who would make connections in the industry. So how did she end up going with Phil Spector that night? Well, at first she didn't know who he was. She didn't know who he was at all. She thought he was a woman at first, but as I got ahead of myself here, excuse me. This is just a picture of Lana Clarkson, I think it was Neely Hudson. And you can see the terrible injuries that she sustained that you've all heard so much about, and the cast or whatever mechanical device was there. Again, anybody in that situation, I think, clearly Lana Clarkson had a tough 2002. But she had plans for 2003. She wanted to work again. She wanted to make contacts. She was even going to be, I think, an MC at a House of Blues party. She was excited about new
We do need
auditions.
some spice. Good
She was
God.
writing scripts. She booked a new modeling job. She was taking new headshots for her auditions. And people thought she had talent. I'm sure you remember Mark Hirschfield, the NBC director, worked for NBC. He told her, and he wrote a letter, and he wrote this letter, as I recall, and the words are right up there. I think this was his testimony, excuse me, but he said, I wouldn't have taken the time to write the letter if I didn't think positive things about her. And then we had this gentleman from Fox TV, and his testimony was, again, I get a lot of submissions, but he took time to look at Lana's video, which he found was creative and full of vitality. I think that's what he said, vividly. Okay. And she did a lot of things to pursue her career. That's why she was at the House of Blues. That's why she was looking to meet people and make connections. These are some of the headshots that she did. So I mentioned she bought new shoes. You heard the testimony about that from her mother, Donna Clarkson. That very day, I don't know who buys new shoes, and this is for you to decide if they're planning on killing themselves, but anyway, that was... She had some commercial successes. Here's a couple things that were brought into evidence about modeling jobs she did, and I think the last one, Neely Hudson's in this picture with Lana Clarkson and Paul Newman. I think she was doing some work at some point for Kmart. So she ended up at the House of Blues in this corporate job, and she wanted to meet people, she wanted to make some money, help pay the rent, and she wanted to pursue her job, her acting job. And so she met Phil Spector that night. Oh, I'm a little ahead of myself there too. Okay, let's talk about this. She met Phil Spector that night, but she didn't know him at all. If you remember the testimony, she was working at the security position at the House of Blues in the foundation room. He came up, wanted to come in. I guess he didn't have the wristband. Remember, we had some testimony about that. And she stopped him and said, "You can't go in." And he said, "Well, I'm Phil Spector." She probably misheard or didn't hear the Phil part of it, and she said she thought he was a woman. "Mrs. Spector, you can't go in." Until one of her supervisors said, and I think it was Euphrates, told her, "Hey, this guy is important. This guy you treat like gold. You treat them like Dan Aykroyd, who was, I think, one of the owners there. And so Lana Clarkson, being a smart person, savvy maybe in the industry, realized this is an important guy. And that's what changed. And at that point, she was open to the idea of meeting this guy and getting to know him. Because, as her agent said, you might be able to meet some people who help you there. You might be able to meet some people in the industry. You might make some connections. Now, this is the next slide we wanted to talk about. Miss Kenny Bodden made quite a big deal out of this letter, and I think you're going to have the letter, most of it, in there. It's Exhibit Y to the Ken. If you recall, she said, well, Lana Clarkson's depressed. She just lost this relationship she'd been in. She'd hoped that Cowboy or Mr. L.B. Moon would be the guy. And she was really depressed about it. Well, she probably was. But this is part of the letter. And in this letter, which is, I think, written within a month or so of when Spector killed her, look at what she says to L.B. Moon. Misspelled Broadway, but other than that, I have a major career that is about to bust wide open. I've got some serious red carpet to walk down. I'm going to Broadway. And I have the desire in my heart to have children and have a family, and I'm going to get what I deserve. Does that sound like a woman who is so depressed that she couldn't get out of bed in the morning or couldn't do anything? Even faced with this situation where she'd broken up with this guy, apparently, that she had hopes for, there'd be a long-term relationship, this is her reaction. It's not, woe with me, I've had it. She's not writing to him to say, you know, this didn't work out, I'm looking for a bridge to jump off of. She's saying, basically, you know what? You just missed out because I'm back. My wrists are okay. I'm going to Broadway. I'm going to be a star. I'm going to make it. This is a determined woman. This isn't someone that's about to kill herself. Not at all. Let's just talk about that here. I made a list of, and it's really obvious. Lana Clarkson, the evidence shows you, wasn't about to kill herself. She wasn't despondent in that sense. She just got this job. She just bought the shoes to go to the job. She wanted an opportunity to network. That's why she ended up going home with him that night. She just got the headshots that we looked at. She had a new commercial schedule. I think she'd just done one, and she was about to do another. She sent her landlord money, and you might remember that stipulation that we worked out that really is evidence here, that she was never late on her rent. I'm doing this from memories, but I believe that's right. She was never late on her rent. She I think, owed $130 of her total rent at the time of her death. And it sent a note, which probably should be on here too, that she was going to pay that and pay that soon. Somebody who's planning on killing themselves is going to do that? I don't think the evidence shows that. And here, on the very night that this happens, she makes an effort to tell Spector, and I think Mr. Jackson talked about this, she wanted to move her car from the location where it was, and it might get locked in, to another location where she could retrieve it that evening, or later that morning, really. That's somebody who's got plans, going to work the next day or whatever. She went to the defendant's house. There is no evidence whatsoever, and Miss Kenny Bodden tried to suggest that something that Spector said to Romney Davis shows that, well, Lana must have not known where all Spector's guns were. That's just not the case. There's no evidence to support that whatsoever. None whatsoever. And the picture we've seen so many times, she's sitting at the back door with her handbag over her shoulder. Is that somebody who's ready to go? Well, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Now, the defense experts talked to you a lot about Lana Clarkson's history. It was evidence that both sides developed. We certainly gave over everything we had, and the defense responded in a like manner on that issue with respect to Lana Clarkson. So they had all of her information, but if you remember, and Mr. Jackson did all the cross-examination of the many or most of the defense experts, they didn't want to hear any of the motive history about Phil Spector. And this motive history, as Ms. Kenny Bodden suggested and the judge will instruct you on, it's really about an emotional response, the defendant's emotional response to a situation, to the situation we think, based on the evidence, the 5 women in those 7 incidents really present to you. And I thought it was particularly interesting, and I'm going to have to read this part to get it right, that, for example, Dr. DeMaio, and maybe it was Dr. Bodden too, made such a big deal out the interoral gunshot wounds, 99.5% of them, they said, were self-inflicted. And that, I'm not going to mischaracterize, I mean, they say that made up their mind, but that certainly sent them a long ways down the road to making up their mind. Well, yeah, maybe, but how about if there's somebody else in the room? Like Phil Spector. If you want to know Lana Clarkson's history, why wouldn't you want to know Phil Spector's motive history background? I don't know, but they didn't want to know. And we're going to review that right now. Thanks, Esther.
My conclusion as to who fired the gun is not based on the history, but it's based on the physical evidence.
The history of Mr. Spector is less important because the elements of this case on February 3rd, 2003 are not being considered. You don't need to know what he did 10 years before. And that which did occur is based on the physical evidence of that day, not on what he did 20 years. We all did stupid things 20 years ago or 10 years ago. I did, I know. Well, who knows what you do? But when you're drunk, who knows what you do?
I did review various parts of his history, yes, and various allegations about his history. Yeah, but whatever else is in the other person's mind doesn't tell you whose hand was on the gun. Then what's in her mind is important, but what in his mind isn't too important. So further, but what he's thinking or other people are thinking doesn't affect that decision.
Well, they weren't interested in hearing this motive history that was presented to you at all. Not even on the stand. They didn't even want to hear it. Although I did think it was interesting that Dr. Spitz, maybe you picked this up in kind of the second segment, Dr. Spitz said, well, who knows what you do when you're drunk? You all catch that? Well, the defendant had been drinking that night. He'd been drinking, he made advances in the prior acts, motive, women that we presented at them. He gets upset when females want to leave. And then there's something that, and I didn't make this up, I think it was Romney Davis first presented this to us, or maybe one of the other women. Phil mode. And then he pulls out guns. Phil mode, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, is when Phil Spector's a nice guy, he's a romantic guy, and all of a sudden something happens and he switches. He starts yelling, he loses his temper, becomes very outraged and upset. And let's talk about
Yo, Brooklyn, what's up?
a little bit.
Get in
Okay,
here.
Thank you. Oh, got to do it again? Okay, thanks.
Okay. I had dinner with him Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday night. Philip had, I think, 2 drinks that night.
Noble eye?
The alcohol consumption appeared for the first time Friday night, and it occurred again Saturday and then on Sunday. Prior to that, he did not ever consume alcohol with me. Well, I was very concerned about him.
Did you express that concern?
Yes, because I knew he took certain medication, and I knew that mixing alcohol and medication is a lethal combination, and I was very concerned. And then this particular weekend was the first time ever that the behavior was completely and totally different. And it
So
began
crazy how we've been on these
the first
closings
night, and I
for,
was very
it'll
concerned.
be like 10 hours
And
with
he
everything combined,
didn't want to hear what I
plus
had
maybe
to say.
11
I said,
hours.
"Philip, please don't drink. You take medication. You shouldn't be
Insanity.
mixing this." And he didn't hear me.
In this mode of kind of history that we're talking about with the 5 women that testified here and what happened and comparing that, allowing you to use that within the judge's instructions here, the drinking is very important. Each one of the women that testified told you how Phil Spector had been drinking, sometimes even drunk, but certainly drinking in each one of these situations where they wanted to leave and they weren't allowed to leave, and then a gun was pointed in their face. Again, it's for you to decide, but Romney Davis told us something very important there, and I think that you can all decide or learn that apparently Phil Spector hadn't been drinking before that weekend for a while anyway. And she, who is a friend of hers, I'm sure you remember.
It was on about a 40-year bender, I believe.
Her testimony and how they are high school friends, and they made this kind of reacquaintance a year or so before, started going out with him. And that weekend, she said she saw him Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the night that he met Lana Clarkson, February 2nd into February 3rd of 2003. He started drinking, and she was very upset about it. She was very concerned about it. And another part of that, this kind of recipe or mode of history, is the defendant apparently wants to get romantic, have sex with these women. Think back, Dorothy Melvin, when she wanted to leave, gun pointed at her head, and she's told to get upstairs, take off her clothes.
What's up,
the
Debbie?
same thing with Diane Ogden.
Hope you're having a good weekend.
With Stephanie Jennings in the Carlisle Hotel, and we'll talk about this more in a little detail. She was told by Phil Spector's bodyguards to get down to his room. Why do you think that was? It was in the middle of the night. Of course, it was for sex. And the night we're talking about, there was a 3-pack of Viagra, and I think 2 of them were missing, or one of them was missing. All those with the perfect notes will remember, but there was at least one of those pills missing. And was he interested in the same thing that night? Well, Lana Clarkson was his 3rd date that night. And if you remember, Sophia Hogin, the cocktail waitress at the House of Blues, Spector asked her first to go home with him. So I just want to digress here for a moment, and Ms. Kinney Bond made quite a deal about, well, there was no test for a Viagra. We don't know whether or not there was Viagra in the system or not. My recollection is that the evidence showed you that there was not enough urine left in that sample to do the test on it, and even if there was, the LA County criminalists at the sheriff's lab didn't have that test, although they could have set it out, but there just wasn't enough urine in it. Again, that's what I recall the evidence being, but your notes are control. Thank you, Ron. No, I just want to make sure you're okay.
Or everybody okay? Okay, you may continue. Thank you.
Another important, at least I hope for you, important evidence is the defendant's state of mind with respect to women and its guns. And you recall that Vince Tenazzo came in and testified. He was the retired retired New York Police Department detective who worked for Joan Rivers, had been for some time in private security. And Joan Rivers every year had a Christmas party on, I think, the Upper East Side. 2 years in a row, Dorothy Melvin was there and Phil Spector was there. And in each of those 2 parties, Phil Spector had to be escorted out by Vince Tenazzo. And he made certain statements that just showed, well, his state of mind about women. And I'm going to let you listen to those. Thank you, Esther.
She said, "Vinny, get up here. Phil Spector just pulled out a gun." I just received a call that there was a man with a gun upstairs.
Spector should have went up on the stand, dude.
I put my gun in my pocket. When the elevator doors opened, I
What's up, RX girl? Welcome in here.
By Phil Spector and Dorothy Melvin. They were having an argument, loud voices. He was saying, these fucking cunts, these fucking cunts. It was loud, louder than the average voice, and he was just saying, this fucking cunt, we proceeded to go towards the front door of the building, and at which time Phil Spector stopped and made a move for the area of his pocket, his waistband. I told Phil Spector, if he pulls out that gun, I'll blow his fucking brains out.
And then the second video we'd like you to watch. This has to do with Phil Spector and his badge and his gun permit. Thank you.
He was still motherfucking the cunt, this fucking cunt, and we were proceeding to the limo. Phil Spector got in the back, and I got in with him. He first, from his, I believe it was his top pocket, he removed the badge. I glanced at it, but I had other things on my mind, to be honest with you. And then he produced a permit out of his inside jacket, I think, and he handed me a permit. And then he said, that's why I have these permits. I carry a piece, these fucking cunts. And he said, they all deserve a bullet in their fucking heads.
They all deserve a bullet in their heads. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Phil mode that we talked about, but they all deserve a bullet in their head. I think it's important to talk about, just for a moment, the difference
the same part of the trial
that you've heard.
Lady, rather, after lady,
because
give the same freaking story.
There's probably another difference that Ms. Kinney Bodden brought up that I will suggest to you is not very important, but there is a difference. Each and every one of them knew Phil Spector for a while. I think Ms. Kinney Bodden mentioned this. They dated with him. They knew him. And I'm going to suggest to you that, based on the evidence, they knew the switch in the Phil mode. They knew the good Phil and the bad Phil, so to speak, when he got angry, got upset, didn't get his way, wanted to be controlling. That's all for you to decide. But they knew that. They had a relationship with him, and each and every one of them was able, to some degree or another, escape and control that. Remember Deborah Robitel saying, and we'll get to the video or the slide in a moment, but she said she did it by acting very British, kind of like a British nanny. But they all knew him. Lana Clarkson didn't. Lana Clarkson didn't know the nice side of Phil that these women did. So when this happened, and he went to Phil mode and pulled out the gun when she wanted to leave, she didn't have that background with him. Now, Ms. Kinney Bodden suggested to you, well, she was big. She's a tall woman. She should have been able to overcome him. Is that what she was suggesting? Kind of like Dr. DeMille, which for you to pick the most ridiculous point in the trial, not me, but when Dr. DeMille suggested that Lana Clarkson should have just reached out and grabbed that revolver by the barrel, I suggest that's for you to decide, based on all that evidence, but that had to be a pretty ridiculous suggestion. Who in the right mind would grab a loaded gun? If Esther Lynn here had a loaded gun pointed at me, anyway. So I think the size difference is not very important, but that's for you to decide. Here we're going to talk, I think, about Phil mode.
Phil mode.
It was the first time ever that the behavior was completely and totally different. And it began the first night, and I was very concerned.
He snaps, and he turns on a dime, and he becomes a lunatic. And then in the middle of his lunacy, all of a sudden, he'll have a moment of, huh? and then he goes back to what he was.
He was screaming, not being him. He was just like taken over by something. I don't know what, but
Yeah, sex demon from hell.
Just very loud, insulting. He was definitely drunk, and he was loud and demanding.
And then, right then, I knew his whole demeanor had changed, and that kind of, I was kind of taken back by that.
But you asked me a question as to whether he changed personalities, and my experience was that for the whole time, during the day, there would be a different Mr. Spector than at night.
All of those women had seen this change in Phil Spector, the Phil mode. Lana Clarkson, because she just met him that night, I suggest to you, based on the evidence, didn't know that. That's what was the difference here. When he pulled out the gun, perhaps she didn't know that she could just wait or be British or fall asleep in the chair. Yet she had bruises on her arms. Struggle? I don't know, that's for you to decide. Let's briefly talk about the 5 women that testified here. We aren't going to play the video because it's getting a little late. But each one of them went through this. Dorothy Melvin, I'm sure you remember, was the first woman that testified. She thought that he drank the better part of a bottle of vodka. She wanted to leave. He pulled out the gun, and remember, she was told to take her clothes off and go upstairs. She didn't. She eventually was chased down the driveway with a shotgun and called the Pasadena police. And I thought this is important too. I hope for you to decide what's important, but hope you remember this. She came back with the Pasadena police, was standing outside, and the police first came in and they introduced themselves, and Phil Spector was just a nice, great guy. And then all of a sudden, something sent him off, whether it was they put him in handcuffs or said something to him. And he started ranting and raving and screaming at the Pasadena police officers, too. Again, this Phil mode. Lana Clarkson, I don't think, since you just met him that night, had that experience. Diane Ogden, hold her. Again, drinking. She wanted to leave. The door's locked. Defendant pulls out a gun. And Spector, at gunpoint, forces her upstairs. She sleeps with him all night with a gun she believed nearby and didn't get to leave until the next morning. Stephanie Jennings, this is the one in New York City at the Carlisle Hotel. Stephanie Jennings came in and told you that she was a photographer from Philadelphia, that she'd been asked by the defendant to accompany him to some event in New York City where she was going to take some pictures. They were there all night. She came back from the party earlier than Phil Spector, at least that's what my memory tells me, and went to a room. Later on, gets a knock on the door, and it's his bodyguard. Maybe there's 2. I think there's just 1. And the bodyguard says, Mr. Spector wants you down in his room. Or maybe down in his room now. And she goes, it's too late. I want to go to sleep. I want to go to sleep. Now I want you down in his room. Well, the next thing she knows, Spector's at her door, and then later at her door, sitting inside with a gun pointing at her. And the only way she got out of this...
Fajitas. Let me fix the fajitas. Thanks, everyone, for coming through tonight. Appreciate it. Still got, what, about 40 minutes left? 33 minutes.
Just to call 911.
No, wait. No, I can't even count.
She called 911.
About 40 minutes, right?
She thought that Spector thought
40 minutes left.
She was calling her mother because Spector, as I recall, said something like, well, calling your mother's not going to help. And eventually, the police arrived. Spector got out of there, I think, before the police arrived, and she left the hotel, maybe even escorted out of the hotel. But you might recall, and gosh, I can't remember her name, but a very nice woman came from New York City, was the 911 operator or custodian, the records at least, and well, I don't have those right here, but we had documents that with all these numbers and symbols and letters documented this phone call, Stephanie Jennings' phone call to the New York Police Department, and using her expertise, that custodian of records told us exactly, at least what that document said, this call from Stephanie Jennings to the New York Police Department was that night. Basically documented. As I recall it, even in the document, Phil Spector's name showed up. Melissa Grosvenor, this was the woman that Phil Spector met in New York, I think with her sister, and she later was working at a restaurant, and she even testified that Spector changed hotels so he could be across from her. At some point, Spector moved out to California, and Spector invited her out to California to spend a long weekend. I think Melissa Grosvenor planned on spending 3 or 4 days out there, bought the ticket, or wanted to buy a round-trip ticket, but Spector said, no, we'll just do it one way at a time. So she got out here, went to her hotel. Now, she was on New York time. They went out to dinner, came back to Spector's house. There was some drinking going on, some dancing, and at some point, what Melissa Grosvenor said was 2 in the morning, LA time, 5 in the morning for her, she said, I want to go. Film mode. Everything changes. A gun comes out. It's pointed at her head, and she basically is forced to stay and then falls asleep in a chair in the foyer near the front door. She didn't get to leave till the next morning, and surprisingly enough, Spector never made any reference to it. And lastly, Deborah Robitel, you heard her most recently, a woman with a British accent who worked for Spector in the 70s and then again in the 80s, and said that in her way, her phraseology, because she was working for Spector at his house, she had to be there, and somehow she was the last man standing. She was the last person to be there with Spector. And in both these situations, we'll go into great detail, but in both these situations in the 70s and then later when she worked for him again, when she wanted to leave, he became very upset, again switched into film mode, and pointed a gun at her head. And at one point even told her that if you move, I'll pull the trigger. And somehow she got out of this by, I think she told you on the stand, getting herself together, using her British ways. I don't think she said stiff upper lip, but that's kind of what it sounded like maybe. And somehow talked him out of it. Lana Clarkson didn't have that advantage. She didn't have that background with him. On the night that Lana Clarkson met the defendant, he had been drinking. Mr. Jackson showed you all those receipts for all the places they went. He made advances. He tried to talk Sophia Hogin into coming home with him. From the last picture that we've seen so often, I suggest to you, based on all the evidence, you have to know that Lana Clarkson wanted to leave. What woman sits in the chair with her handbag over her shoulder, pulled out his gun, and he murdered her? You want to take a break?
All right. Yeah, I think there's some agreement. So, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind the admonition will be in recess for 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you.
Court's again in session.
All right, back on the record. The parties, jurors, and alternates are present as heretofore. You may resume.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is argument, so I'm just going to take a moment and argue on something that's not, just tell you. Mr. Jackson, as he often does, corrects me during the breaks, and he just told me that I put Mr. D'Souza in the British Army. He's actually in the Brazilian Army, and he did 9 months there. And not that this has to do anything to do with anything, but people make mistakes when they speak, you know? I mean, they just do. So maybe you can take that into account with everything. Next, we're going to talk, and I'm sure the defense will be maybe interested in this. We're going to talk about science, okay? Just not a long time, but a little bit. And two things that the defense brought up here kind of the centerpiece of their case is the GSR, gunshot residue, and blood spatter. And let's talk first about GSR, okay? Because Dr. Bodden's report, I think Mr. Jackson showed him that report, that 3-page report, and he got $110,000 for his participating in this case, but the 3-page report dated February 14th, 2007 said in part that the gunshot residue on Lana Clarkson's hands confirmed that she was holding the gun with both hands when it was discharged. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard a lot about gunshot residue in this case and from a number of experts, maybe on both sides. Steve Dowell from the coroner's office and Christine Pinto, I believe, from the sheriff's crime lab. And then you heard discussion about it. Nobody thinks the gunshot residue can tell you, no expert thinks the gunshot residue can tell you who fired the weapon. And the exact reason is, and I'm sure you remember, the defense had these guns going off with this big puffs of stuff coming out of them. If you're in that cloud of stuff, you're going to get it on your hands whether you shoot the gun or not. It tells you that gunshot residue on your hands tells you that you were in the vicinity of it when a gun went off. Either you shot the gun or maybe you were just in the vicinity. It doesn't definitely tell you that you shot the gun. And it comes off. Let's see. It comes off. I think this was some of the testimony from both those witnesses. It comes off after a period of time due to normal just kind of wear and tear, walking around, rubbing your hands, sticking your hands in your pocket, washing your hands, all the things that the defendant did in those 40 minutes between when he killed Lana Clarkson and the police show up and he got sent off to the Alhambra Police Department. What is the difference? It's so obvious between Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector. Lana Clarkson was dead. She couldn't walk around. She couldn't wash her hands, obviously. It's ridiculous even to suggest what was on her hands when she was holding her hands up, as I suggest to you, and we're going to go in this detail later on, in a defensive manner, was on her hands to stay. She didn't walk around. She didn't wash them off. She didn't stick them in a toilet, mess around with a diaper. She didn't do any of that. He did, and he did it for a long period of time. Here's what the two criminalists who seem to know a lot about GSR said during the trial. Steve Dowell from the coroner's office.
The presence of particularly the highly specific particles on the samples collected from the hands, the conclusion I would reach is therefore...
Oh shit, fajitas? My bad.
May have discharged a firearm or otherwise had her hands in an environment of gunshot residue.
The decedent could have had her
nuts.
hands up or near a gun when it was fired and just had those particles all over her hands, correct?
That's correct.
Or she could have got the particles just by firing.
That's correct.
And there's no scientific way for you to be able to tell the difference.
There is not. On live individuals, the things that we do with our hands, intentionally or not, have an opportunity to remove particles. So any uncontrolled activity by a live individual that offers an opportunity for them to wipe their hands together, wash their hands, stick their hands in their pockets, anything like that, any kind of activity like that can remove particles of gunshot residue.
These particles literally explode out of all of the mechanical openings of a gun and they settle onto nearby surfaces. They're very easily transferred, so I can't say anything about someone's handedness based upon whether the particles came from the left hand or the right hand. They're easily transferred. At best, I could say that you were both in an environment of gunshot primer residue, but I could not identify either one of you as being the shooter.
Two people who had gunshot residue on their hands, they were both in the environment of a gun going off, but she can't. Neither could Steve Dowell tell you who does, who fires a shot. So if somebody comes in here, for example, Dr. Bodden, who we're going to talk about a little bit, and says that definitely tells you that, or that there's a quantitative versus qualitative difference in this, it's just, I think that the people testified to that. There's a reason that Lana Clarkson had more on her hands, or at least one reasonable reason is that she couldn't do it. She couldn't move around. She couldn't get rid of it. He got rid of it, I suggest, based on all the evidence. Now we're going to talk about some bullet points here. Oops, no, we aren't. Oh, this is what we're going to talk about. Sorry. What I just talked about. But that means it'll go a little faster. Points I just made. This is what we're going to talk about, Mr. Jackson's list here. I'm not going to talk at length about any of these subjects, just to remind you, because I know you listened so closely to the evidence, and a lot of this has to do with the science that Mr. Jackson talked about a lot. But continuing with GSR, Ms. Kinney Bodden suggested there was no GSR on the defendant's clothing. His clothing wasn't tested, but as I recall it, and again, your notes control, there was smokeless powder on his cup. And the reason, and I remember this testimony, but again, it's your decision. The reason that it wasn't tested, the jacket wasn't tested, is because there were some other guns, and you're going to get an instruction, I think, on this. Maybe not, but there were some other, there were these guns, a couple guns that you've heard about in his house, and they were just, there's GSR. GSR didn't go away, and it sticks on clothing for a while, so it'd be kind of meaningless. Ms. Kinney Bodden said there was high velocity blood spatter on Lana's right lapel. This is the flow that was talked about, I think, from Jamie Linnemoot. Dr. DeMaio talked about, here we have it up there. Dr. DeMaio talked about the explosion in her mouth and at the time that of the gunshot, and Mr. Jackson cross-examined him on that, and Dr. DeMaio just had no source for this whatsoever. And in fact, what we did learn as the case went on is that Lana Clarkson had these fractures to the top of her skull, and that's very likely where a lot of the power, the force, the energy of this gunshot went to. We already talked about Dr. Harold. Linda Kinney Bodden said that Jamie Linnemoot said that there was high-speed or high-velocity blood spatter on Lana Clarkson's hands and wrists. I made a note, actually, even made a note here on my hands, but your memory will control, but my recollection is that she pointed, when Jamie Linnemoot testified, pointed to this portion of her hands and wrists, like this, which would be consistent with blood spatter coming out of your mouth and your hands being held up in a protective way. The luminol issue, they said it was done improperly. You heard from Steve Renteria on this, and you also heard that there was no blood spatter or back spatter on Lana Clarkson below, and Mr. Jackson used a picture where he had a red line drawn across it, across beyond her thighs. And I'd ask you to think back about that, because that's really what I think the evidence will show. Lastly, because we're going to get to the blood in the lungs in a moment, the DNA on the bullets, and this goes back to the opening statement, Ms. Kinney Bodden's opening statement, where Chris Ford was up here with the Elmo and circling the bottom of the bullets, saying that there was Lana Clarkson's DNA on the bottoms of the bullets. That's just not the case. Check your notes and check the evidence. The DNA was from blood, and it was from the tips of the bullets. And we're going to show you some information here in a little while. They'll show how that got on the tips of the bullets, but not on the base of the bullets. It just wasn't there. Okay. Let's talk about, there's the bullets, right. And my recollection, and yours controls, is that Mr. Plord either circled or pointed to the base of those bullets, saying that that's where the DNA, where Lana Clarkson's DNA was. And I think all the testimony was that it came from the tips. Okay, let's go. Okay, this is the other
Ghoulie. I'm running out of ghoulies.
Case really is the back spatter and how it got on the white coat. Remember, it's on the left panel, kind of like right here. And this is for you folks to decide, but I think there's an evolution here of the theories as it goes on, and you're just going to have to review your notes and think about it. Mr. Jackson talked about this a lot, but first it was, well, back spatter flies 72 inches. Well, no, that didn't really happen. That was suggested in the opening statement, but there's no evidence of that in the case, as I recall it. Then there was Dr. DeMaio with a slight inhaler and then exhale, with corresponding exhale, excuse me. But that would have to happen, and I think the testimony was at the same time, almost instantaneously, or at least within the same moments as the shot, which would have still, because what they're trying to do is tell you, well, this back spatter from Lana Clarkson happened after the gunshot, so that's how he got it on. And this all is trying to explain that, to explain why Phil Spector wasn't there when the gun went off, but why he got back spatter on him later on. At least that's my take on it, and you folks heard all the evidence, and you're going to decide what happened. So then we had the slight exhale, but that would happen, Dr. DeMaio testified, I believe, right at the time of the gunshot, or right at the time of the death. So then we had, and I'm sure you all remember Alan Jackson doing the Dr. Spitz raspberry thing, but there's just no support for that either. So what happened, and then Chris Plord asked the prime rib question, which was, well, I don't think really meant seriously. So there was maybe a problem here. And then there was a suggestion, well, maybe she coughed. She coughed, but her spine is transected, so she can't breathe anymore. How did she cough? Well, that's when we get to Dr. Bodden and the aha moment. Because everybody up to that point on both sides had been under the impression, given the medical opinion, that Lana Clarkson's spine had been completely transected. That there's nothing between her brain and her lungs. There was no way to send those signals. And Dr. Bodden, who'd been on this case from the beginning of this case, was at the autopsy. I mean, it's over 4 years now. Comes in here, and I'll, for the sake of argument, characterize as a Hail Mary for you football fans. Last minute Hail Mary, comes in here and says, oh, I had an aha moment last night. By the way, I didn't tell the prosecution about it before I got on the stand and told you, but you know what? All those people that testified, they're wrong. They didn't catch this. Her spine wasn't completely transected. And the people that testified included the defense people, Dr. DeMaio and Dr. Spitz. When they were on the stand, before Dr. Bodden got on the stand, they never said, oh, you know, I know how that back spatter got on Phil Spector, because she still was breathing for 2 to 4 minutes after she died. Not one of them said that. Dr. Pena never said that. Dr. DeMaio never said that. And Dr. Spitz, at least the first time he was on the stand, he never said that either. But Dr. Bodden comes in here and says, oh, you know, it's been 4 years. I was at the autopsy. I went to the science fair out there with my wife in May of 2006. I've been thinking about this case. I wrote the report, my 3-page report, February 14th, 2007. It just never occurred to me. But now I have the answer. And her spine wasn't completely transected. News, apparently news to him, because he just thought about the night before. News to everybody else, I guess. Except for he's wrong. And Dr. Andrews came in here and told you, Dr. Andrews from the coroner's office, who specializes in this neuropathology, forensic stuff, he came in here and told you, even if there were a few strands left, spinal shock would not allow anything, any signals to go from the brain to the lungs. Even if there were a couple of these little bitty mini spaghetti strands left. And he sat up there as Mr. Jackson questioned him and had a stack of materials. I'm sure you recall Mr. Jackson's argument on this. And Dr. Andrews said, hey, Don't take my word for it. Here's the article. Here's the article. Here's the article. It just didn't happen. The partial transection was a Hail Mary. So I have to ask you this. I have to talk about this. Is there any conflict of interest here? And, you know, Mrs. Kenny Bodden's a nice lady, and there's no personal attack here. It's really a question of judgment and what's going on here. Dr. Bodden comes in at the last minute, doesn't tell us about his aha moment, but comes up with a theory that supports their case. And he's married to the person that just gave the final argument, who argued his credibility to some degree. Isn't that a conflict of interest? But Dr. Bodden, who's Dr. I never heard of a conflict of interest, had this to say about that.
And you had indicated on direct examination that you do have a relationship with one of the defense attorneys in this case. As a matter of fact, some might even call her the lead defense attorney in this case, Ms. Linda Kenny Bodden, correct?
She is my wife, yes.
All right. Can you tell us, or tell the jurors in your words, how you define the phrase conflict of interest?
I consider conflict of interest a legal term and not a medical term, so I can't really define it as you say, but if you're asking me about my wife being involved in the case...
I'm simply asking you, Dr. Bodden, about your definition of the general phrase, a conflict of interest.
I don't have a definition of that.
So you do agree that emotions or personal feelings or personal interests can play a part in a conflict of interest, either medically or otherwise?
I don't know about the conflict of interest part. I told you, I don't know what that means. It can play a part in relationships. Yes, it can play a part in emotion.
Mrs. Kenny Bodden told you the defense science, she said this a number of times, the defense science is unbiased, impartial, and objective. Is that what you take away from that? Is it? You know, Dr. Bodden, and I won't go back to the earlier video, but he was the one that wasn't interested in all in Phil Spector's motive history. Not interested in all. Mr. Jackson asked him, well, would you consider this name? You know, it's not real important, kind of like the rest of them from the defense side. But, you know, and this is just an argument, so I'm going to argue a little bit. You know, what if he did? They're supposed to be unbiased, impartial, and objective. It's like our judge. I mean, our judge is impartial, objective, unbiased, and fair. That's what experts are supposed to be. You know, would somebody have a problem if the spouse was on the bench and you're trying a case? Of course you would. This isn't far from that. So when Dr. Bodden says, you know, I'm not interested in Phil Spector's motive history, I'm not at all. Well, what if he really was? I don't know, but this is argument. What if he really was? And he heard, and Mr. Jackson laid out the 7 incidents from the 5 women, and he goes, aha. Goes, you know what? That might change my opinion. Well, you can imagine it might not be such a nice dinner conversation that night, huh? You just convicted my client. I just don't think that what you've heard, and you're the judges on this, is unbiased, impartial, and objective. But that's your decision based on all the evidence here, and you consider this. So what do we have next in the defense's efforts to explain the backspatter, the high-velocity backspatter on Phil Spector's left part of his coat? Well, Dr. Warner Spitz came back. Now, he's been doing this. I'm older than 54 years, but not a lot older. He's been doing this as long as I've almost been alive. And he had been on the stand. He'd been an expert in this case.
8 a.m. Eastern, starting early. We're going to finish this trial out strong. I want to put in just a little bit of time here tonight to get a little bit more done, to just take off a little bit of tomorrow. But yes, Gambies, come through in the morning.
And he
for the ending of this one, 2023's Charlie Adelson starts Tuesday night at 8. and I'm excited about it.
First time there was a partial
What's up, Holly?
transection of Lana Clarkson's spine. Never
Damn, at the
mentioned
lake.
it. He went along.
That sounds fucking dope.
Well, Dr. Penny was right. It's a full transection. But he comes back here and backs up Dr. Bodden. And then when Mr. Jackson kind of confronts him, and they talk about it a little bit, he backs off of that, but he says, aha. Well, he didn't say aha, but it was kind of like an aha moment. The vagus nerve, that's the out here. The vagus nerve, that's what would tell you that Lana Clarkson continued to breathe for all this period of time, explain the back spatter on Phil Spector's jacket. It's this vagus nerve, and this is Alan Jackson's handiwork up here, his artwork, but it was pretty much right out of the book that Warner Spitz looked at, only Alan Jackson, as he explained in his cross-examination of Warner Spitz, put one-way signs on it, because that's how it works. As you recall, and we won't do the whole thing, that the vagus nerve here is that one, and it's one way, and it's taking a signal from the lungs. I need air. Breathe in, and then the nerves down the spinal cord send that impulse to the relevant muscles. But in a transection, a full transection of the spine, they can't get there. So Warner Spitz was confronted with that, and I think at some point conceded the point. But what was really interesting about it is that he said, Dr. Spitz said, I just learned about this the night before. I think it was Chris Plord, gave me this paper, this book, or maybe Dr. Spitz found it. I don't remember. You'll have to decide if it's important. But he just read about this the night before and comes in here and talks to you about it and doesn't really totally understand it. He's wrong. Based on all the evidence, he's wrong. They can't explain it. They can't explain why Phil Spector has that back spatter on his jacket. Oops, did we miss one? Oops. Okay. But we're going to play, and I need to introduce this to you a little bit. We're going to play some animations here for you. These are not evidence. I want to make sure everybody knows this. Not evidence. You're not going to have them back there in the jury room. They weren't testified here in court, but they are certainly our view of what happened here based on what we think the evidence is here in an effort to make them as realistic as possible. But again, this is not evidence. You won't have it in the jury room. We're going to go through four different points of view here. You all went out to the jury view, so I hope you can recognize this as Phil Spector's foyer in the castle. We have here the back door actually, the back door, just feet, maybe 8-10 feet away from where Lana Clarkson died. The chair, the second chair with Phil Spector's valise or briefcase in it with the 2 cell phones that were never used for the 911 call. The stairs, I'm sure you recall the stairs here. And you'll see this in a different view, but the green, there's a pedestal there. Obviously, Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector represented here. And each of these views, we're going to ask to fire the gun, and you're going to see this animation. So could we do that on this first one? And you can see here how Lana Clarkson, maybe do that once more. There we go. Okay. Lana Clarkson's head falls to the right. Her hand kind of falls limp over her handbag, the leopard handbag here. And you can see Spector's left hand, how he's turned, and his right hand after the shots fired and the gun. And as you recall from so many people who testified here that talked about guns, Jim Carroll, Dr. DeMaio, I think even Warner Spitz, about the recoil. We're going to talk about the recoil of this gun. Perhaps we could go to view number 2. Here we can see obviously the same situation, the back door, Lana Clarkson, Phil Spector. Here we have the pedestal and this paneling here along the stairway where the criminalist from the sheriff's department tested this. They luminol it or they tested it. There was no backspatter found over there at all. The stairway here, and there was one piece of Lana Clarkson's tooth there. So maybe now we could fire the gun. Okay. And again, you can see how in this animation...
This animation's insane.
Her head falls to the right, which would be consistent with the blood flow that all the scientists saw on her left shoulder, the pooling of blood underneath her purse, and how her hand goes limp over her handbag. We do that one more time. Fire it. Okay. And we're going to go to our third point of view. And this is a view just from the side, obviously much closer. And here we can see, and there was testimony about bruising on Lana Clarkson's arm, her right wrist here. You can see Phil Spector, gun pointed towards her mouth, and how Lana Clarkson's hands are held up in a defensive way. And why don't we fire and go back? Thank you. How after the gun's fired, the backspatter would leave her mouth and hit her hands, just where Jamie Lindemuth said she saw it, here on the hands and wrists. You can also see, once we fire it one more time, we'll go off to how after the gun's fired, this jacket, the white jacket that we talked so much about, how it is exposed to the backspatter, especially because Lana Clarkson's head, as the evidence showed, was turned to the right. And his jacket right in this area would be exposed. And here's one more thing I'd like to point out. It's not just his jacket. This Kenny Bodden, I think it's called Item 19H, made quite a deal about backspatter right in this area, I believe, right in this area of Phil Spector's jacket, and how backspatter can't turn corners, go around corners. How's that? Well, this gun recoils. And let's do that one more time. And at the moment the gun's fired, the backspatter would leave Lana Clarkson, and that undersleeve would be exposed. And would explain the backspatter that we found there. Okay, let's go to 4. Okay. This is our last point of view, and then we're just going to quickly revisit the first one. From this angle, you could, and this is really Lana Clarkson's angle
Jessica.
In this animation, you can see how the gun would be held again.
Gotta finish strong.
Gotta
Gotta finish her out now.
Face and
we didn't go through 16 months for nothing.
Hands.
Well, we kind of did, but also we did.
On her right hand, how her hands and wrists just were.
Dude, this animation's the trippiest part of the trial to me.
Said that she saw
crazy.
Tiny high-velocity backsplatter on her hands would be exposed. We also see, this is a subject that we talked about earlier, the gun. And remember, we've talked about DNA, Lana Clarkson's DNA on the bullets and on the gun. Here, this is a revolver. You all know People's 26, the revolver. And that's where the bullet points would be. And after the gun's fired, you could see how, there we go, how, why don't we go back? Thank you. That moment, the backspatter would hit those bullets, the tips of those bullets, and the scientists, the criminalists, would later find it. You can also see how Phil Spector's hand around the trigger would be partially exposed to blood, to backspatter. And if you recall, at the very beginning of my argument, I talked to you about Adriana D'Souza and how Adriana D'Souza remembers seeing the gun held by Phil Spector in his right hand, and there was, I think his words, a little bit of blood on his hand or on his finger. Okay, let's play that one more time. And again, you may approach.
You may proceed.
Thank you. This last view, I want to point out a couple other things. We talked about where backspatter might hit the bullets, the front edges of the bullets. And also, this is all the animations are intended on being the same, just from different points of view, and each one has the gun in her mouth at one point. If we could fire this, and that is consistent with what our position has been in this case. Here you could see again how after the gun is fired, the recoil of the weapon would raise Phil Spector's arm, right arm, and allow, again, this is from her point of view, from really her mouth, hit 19H, which at least that's what I recall it to be. Okay, let's go to the last one. This revisits the first one. And let's, this is the first scene that we saw. Why don't we fire the gun? Just a little close-up of that, really the first scene that
Perfect
you saw,
depiction.
the last one. And I'd ask you to take a look at this, and we're going to show you a picture of the scene. If you recall now, her head was manipulated later, I think, by the paramedics, but the blood flow did indicate her head was to the right. This is Lana Clarkson after going to Phil Spector's house that night. And our animation, again, which is not in evidence, but is from all the evidence, our position of how this happened and how she ended up in this position from where she was last seen at the House of Blues. You all recall this photo from Mr. Jackson's opening statement. Earlier that evening, about 2:21 in the morning, 2:25, Lana Clarkson walking out of the House of Blues with Phil Spector going to the car.
What's up, CH?
You know, you shouldn't go. I want to say, that's Phil Spector. Don't go. You don't want to go. You don't want to go with him. Don't get in the car. But she did. She did. She got in the car, she ended up in the house, and she ended up dead. In his own words, he told Adriana D'Souza, "I think I killed somebody." No, he didn't kill somebody. He killed Lana Clarkson. And based on all the evidence in this case, I'd ask you to hold Phil Spector responsible for murdering Lana Clarkson, because he didn't kill somebody, because all the evidence shows he murdered Lana Clarkson. I'd ask you to return that verdict. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's real important. We've finished all the evidence and arguments in the case. We're down to being instructed Monday morning, and then you'll begin your deliberations. The case will be with you. So please keep in mind the admonitions. Don't discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Don't allow anyone to discuss it with you. Don't view any news broadcasts, any media, any newspaper articles. We want to keep this case based on everything that's happened in the courtroom and only in the courtroom. Keeping in mind that admonition, we'll see you at 9 o'clock. You know what? Let's make it 9:30, and I'll meet with counsel at 9 o'clock. We'll finalize everything. So 9:30 on Monday morning. Have a pleasant weekend. We'll see you Monday morning at 9:30.
The fuck is up with the fajitas tonight? Going right into the ending. What's next? Outside the presence of the jury for 25 minutes. Let's kill this one too real quick.
All right, back on the record, the defendant's present with his counsel. The district
Kill this
attorneys
one
are
also.
present.
Then in the
Jurors
morning,
alternates
we will
are not
start
present.
fresh.
We have some matters.
Thanks
to
everyone
take
for hanging
up
out
before
tonight.
We get to
25
jury
more
instructions.
minutes.
First of all, there is a motion, defendant's motion, to reopen closing arguments. Mr. Ford?
Reopen closing.
Filed by Mr. River. I'm going to basically make some comments to amplify the
Jesus
points that were
fuck,
made in
guys.
the motion. Basically, the people came up with this theory during their animation as to how this blood spatter would have gotten on the back of Mr. Spector's arm. That's articulated in the motion. We feel that that's a new theory that we're not in a position to have been able to rebut, even though Mr. Dixon did properly say this is not evidence, etc. We feel that all of these points, as well as how they position the point in the gun in the mouth, etc. We think that's new. That was planned to be a new theory based upon just the notion that it took time to get this animation put together. And so we filed this request to ask for 5 minutes of basically rebuttal time, or to reopen our argument to rebut this animation. With that limited time, in order to do that, we're prepared to go forward immediately with that.
Thank you.
Can I just add
Sure.
One of the things I noticed when I was looking at the animation is that it does not factually comport, nor is it consistent with the physical evidence. I don't think there's been a lot of quarrels and a lot of squabbles throughout this trial, but I don't think there's ever been a quarrel or a squabble over the fact that the trajectory was midline, front to back, upward. If you look at the animation, it's not correct. It's totally incorrect, because in the animation, the figure with the white coat is standing over Lana Clarkson in the chair, and the weapon is pointed down, and therefore the trajectory would have to be, even assuming if it was midline, front to back, it would have to be down. And that's not the physical evidence. Dr. Pena testified to that, and so did the other experts. So I think that alone makes it inappropriate and improper.
Thank you. People?
Just briefly, Your Honor, this was not a new theory of evidence. This is a reasonable interpretation of it. It was proper rebuttal of the defense position throughout the case, and during Ms. Linda Kinney-Bawden's argument was that we couldn't explain the blood spatter. This was a reasonable interpretation of all the facts. I said it wasn't evidence. It was just our interpretation of those facts. The defense had an opportunity to make Mr. Rosen's objection. We just didn't play this. If you recall, I asked the court for a few moments, and we played this ahead of time. We gave them the opportunity to review this ahead of time and look at it as long as they wanted. Mr. Reardon said, fine, no problem. So I just don't see that this is anything but proper rebuttal, and I think that we should all be through with our arguments.
Well, I would just say in response briefly that it is correct. It was shown to us, but we did not know what commentary was going to be made in rebuttal to this. So until the commentary was made, and
For the love of fucking God.
Mr. Dixon, the fact that we previewed it didn't give us the full panoply of the facts and the full picture. We had no idea what he was going to say about it until he spoke to the jury about it. So the fact that Mr. Reardon didn't make the objection previously, I think, should not bar the court from considering the comments that have been made by Mr. Plore and myself.
Yeah, I don't remember the arm going up the way it was shown in the video. Maybe I just didn't catch it, but I didn't think that we were shown that before it was shown here in court. And certainly the comments regarding how the blood spatter got there, that's really what took us back, and we wanted to reopen on that basis.
Okay, I just a question about the midline.
The animation showed that her head was actually leaning back at the chair, which establishes exactly how all the doctors agreed that trajectory would be.
All right. I'm satisfied that it was made very clear during the presentation. First of all, there was a preview. Second, that it was made very clear this is not evidence. This is their interpretation of a possible interpretation of the facts. And the motion to reopen the closing argument is denied. There is
denied,
a
you
motion
bitch.
pending concerning whether the
Rosen?
court should, and if it does, how the court should deal with the comments that Ms. Kinney-Bawden did about whether there were other witnesses available and strangers who may have been threatened by Mr. Spector, and whether her comments to the jury turned the court's ruling on limiting the 14, perhaps, incidents that the prosecution wanted to introduce, and the court ended up introducing 5, or allowing the people to introduce 5. Whether that violated the
Good call, Judge.
Or took the court's ruling and turned a so-called shield into
silly.
a sword.
They showed 'em
and the question
beforehand.
is, I want to take a look at, apparently, do we have the comments of Ms. Kinney Bodden? I'll read them, and then I'll make a determination whether I think it's a violation.
I think I've been handed, Cindy handed me a new volume.
I have two, so if we can find it, if somebody can, just everybody look and see if we can find her comments.
Mary Lou is, if we can go off the record, so Mary Lou.
We can go off the record.
Thank you. Mary Lou just shook her head no, that,
Okay.
that it was Friday's, Linda Kinney Bodden's,
We don't have Friday in?
No, but I can pull it up.
What, could you pull it up?
It's Thursday. Oh, you're talking about the cleanup.
Yeah, so if you can pull it up, and then I can look at it. Thank you.
I think it was Friday.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, everyone seems to be in agreement.
Linda's going to be like, oh, it's Tuesday.
And then when we resolve
Add
that,
some
then we have
confusion.
one more issue to deal with.
There's a couple of things I wanted to raise as far as the location of the instructions.
Sure.
Chris, just so you know, Mary Lou can't find what she's trying to find while you're talking.
Okay, thank you.
Alan Jackson just said, hey, Christopher Ployd, shut the fuck up down there. Y'all keep yapping your motherfucking gums. We down with it. We down with it, you fat bitch. Shut the fuck up. Get us the hell out of here, for fuck's sake. You've stolen enough of these people's lives. Your client took a life. You want to steal some more of the jurors' lives? Cocksuckers.
Okay, I think I've gone
Good
through
God.
And your memory's now better than mine.
Well, I don't think it's as bad as you think it is. In fact, I'm not sure that it's impermissible. They did use the term select, but she's pointing out that these, in Mr. Spector's life, his entire life, that you've picked out 5. And remember, the reason I kept out all those incidents, one, many of them had nothing to do with attacks on women. They don't qualify under 1101B in any event. The one that arguably came the closest was this argument at a party, and I remembered it when you recalled it, where there was a dog
We're so
involved.
close.
I remember that. And then
We gotta keep it
produced.
together.
It had nothing to do with the relationship that's required or the similarity that's required under 1101B. It's just not admissible. It's a bad act, but it isn't admissible under 1101B.
I understand.
And the bottom line is, I don't think Ms. Kinney Bodden's comments violate what she's pointing out. You took 5 incidents. It's not, there's never, he has a long life. These 5 similar incidents, he's had, probably dated hundreds of women. There's
Not
nothing
stuck
she
in my
didn't
throat.
use the court's prohibition.
Sometimes you
as a
feel like a
positive
nut.
weapon. That's not, I
Sometimes you
realize
choke
where
on one.
the objection or concern is coming from, but I don't see it.
All right, well, I don't have the transcript in front of me, Judge. My memory was that there was a comment comparing Lana Clarkson to the other 5 1101B women, and the comment was something to the effect that, and look at Lana Clarkson, she was ostensibly a stranger to Phil Spector, and he's never pulled a gun on a stranger. Why would he do that? He had long relationships with these other women, and that's what stuck in my mind, and I thought, well, wait a minute. He knew Deborah Strand 10 minutes before he pulled a gun on her. Granted, not a romantic interest, but he doesn't require a relationship, and for that relationship to falter to pull a gun, and that was the implication left with the jurors.
I understand what the basis of your objection is. I don't think it's an unreasonable comment to make an argument. And let me say this. If your case revolves around that comment, you have a lot of problems. This is an honest comment. Let's be real. This jury has heard 5 months of testimony. Argument certainly is going to help the jury focus. It may get them thinking along certain lines, but in rereading this, I just don't think if it is a violation, it's not a serious enough violation for me to try to craft an instruction that probably would be a little bit dangerous at best. I think it's best to let it go.
Judge, the court's always been reasonable. We accede to your
The most reasonable.
knowledge.
Okay.
Judge Dowhard
You need to-
is
you
the
can give it
man.
back.
There won't be another one like
Okay,
him.
the
I'm going to go out on a limb and just say it. We will never here on Murder Church find another judge as good as this one. And if I'm wrong, I'll be proven wrong and admit it. Well, it'd be my own personal opinion and bias. But fuck, he's the
Talk about
best.
something else, and I need a couple minutes to finalize the instructions.
Yes, I've gone through the final form.
So I think, we're probably going to open with jury instructions in the morning.
A couple things that I want to raise too.
Well, let's go ahead and before
We'll do a
before we
countdown
get
at the end of this
instructions,
video to
let's
see
talk
what
about the
we're
other matter. We
working
need to
at
get this out of the
tomorrow.
way. Last week, it was brought to my attention, and I talked to you in private, and then I talked back on the record about Mrs. Spector making comments to the press concerning her view of the case.
Hell yeah.
I don't care.
Marty
Everybody
Church.
has a right to their opinion, and I don't care, quite frankly, whether anyone likes me or doesn't like me. If after 25 years of doing this, I'm going to worry about that, I'm in the wrong business.
That's me in true crime now.
What I am
And on
concerned
X.
about is
I could
anything
give
that,
two
in my
fucks.
mind, is meant to influence this jury while they're deliberating, and that's despite the fact that you make orders and you try to keep the jury away from any press. The reality is there's always the danger of it happening. And after investing all of us 5 months of our life in this case, I am not going to have that happen. Make no doubt about it. So I talked to counsel, and they said, okay, they'll talk to Mrs. Spector and see that nothing happens. What happens? And Mrs. Spector, I want you to hear every comment I make. You went out and you sent emails to the press, and you said, look at my interview. It's on my website. Ma'am, I'm going to do something I've never done before. You are here in the courtroom. You will not talk to the press during the pendency of this case until a verdict or other decision is arrived at in this case. If you do, you're in violation of my order, and you know what I do to people who violate my orders.
Not a witness.
Ma'am, you're in front of me. I'm making an order. You want to violate my order? Go ahead and do so. I can assure you I will hold you in contempt of court.
You're getting spicy. We got Phil Spector's wife out here wanting to talk to the press to add a little bit of bullshit in here. Yeah, I'll put them in right there. Getting a little spicy in here. Who the hell do you think you're talking to, you dizzy fucking bitch? That's fucking Judge Diehard. All right?
Court for violating my order, and I will treat it accordingly.
And that's okay for
Ma'am?
Lewis and all the other bad people to go out and say stuff
Ma'am, you don't-
nasty about him?
Would you like to remain in the courtroom? I'm making an order. If you don't want to follow it, that's fine. You'll suffer the consequences. That's right. I am talking to you, and what you need to do is listen.
Whoa, lady!
I'll give you a chance to respond. I am telling you, you're going to do nothing to affect
Plord's going over right now to tell her to shut the fuck up.
this trial. And if you do, there will be consequences, and you will suffer the consequences. It's that simple. You are ordered not to discuss this case until a verdict is arrived at or some other decision in this case, at which time you may say anything you wish. But until then, you're not going to do it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay? If you violate the order, be prepared for the consequences that will follow. Now, counsel, you want to talk about this so-called interview you believe your client did not give,
In
which
the
is
night
now
with a
being
little
reported?
spice.
Okay.
I just, Your Honor, and it's been picked up this morning by KTLA TV that apparently, and again, we
Y'all
all
saw
talk
Plord
about this
run over there,
in
right?
our life. It started with a
That's
website
exactly what he told her.
in England. And
Shut
I
the
have
fuck up.
I had the site if you want, Your Honor wants
Yeah,
to see
this
it.
trial's been full of this. This entire trial is just fucking crazy.
Supposedly, where Mr. Spector said all these things concerning the jury, and we had actually asked possibly to be relieved of your court's request not to issue a statement because we want to make sure that that doesn't affect them, that Mr. Spector absolutely trusts this jury who spent 5 months of his life, and these statements that are attributed to him are false, as he has not given an interview about these 12 people on this jury, and we're concerned about is they may have read it, so we don't know if the court wants to voir dire them or at least let us be released for the purposes of making the statement that he does trust the jury who have given 5 months of their life, and that in any attempt to influence the jury against him is just as bad as any other attempt. So we wanted to make sure the court understands that.
Well, what I will do is I will check with the jurors to see if anybody has read any media.
Damn, Joe, 12 months in the Buzz Killers. Get the fuck out of here. No way. Love it. That's awesome, dude. A full year. That's badass. Happy anniversary.
Them or cause them any problems.
Thanks,
I would
Joe,
think
man. That's
anyone
awesome.
who wants to make a comment like that to a jury that's about to deliberate their fate isn't thinking about it if the comment was made, but it also leads to another problem. I'm not going to make a finding on whether Mr. Spector did or did not make such a statement or someone did so on his behalf. It's real easy. Mr. Spector, I'm making the same order to you as I made to your wife. You're not to discuss this case until the verdict is in or until some other result in the case has come in, nor are either one of you, your wife or you, to use a surrogate, to use someone else to make statements on your behalf. I can't control other people, but if I think that somebody is being set up to speak on your behalf, that's another problem that I'll deal with accordingly. Same goes to the Clarkson family. They haven't done it. There's been no comments from them, but I'll make the same order to them. This case is going to be decided based upon the facts presented to the jury and the instructions on the law. And that's all that's going to be decided on, nothing else.
That's what we're concerned about, Your Honor. We're concerned that somebody planted this so that it looks like Mr. Spector does not like them, and he vehemently denies that. So we just want to make sure the court understands that we've been here, and he's been here every day. You have not seen him give interviews to the press on this at all. And,
As I said, the part concerning me, who cares? The part concerning the jurors, yes, I am concerned, and for that, I will make an inquiry as to whether anybody has done anything along those lines. And that's what it's going to be, and that's the way we're going to do it. And this case will be decided in the courtroom where it should be. Okay, now let's talk about the jury instructions.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could we start with 251?
Okay.
I'm looking at it, and I noticed that, by the way, this is, the final version is, supposedly as I've gotten it from Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
There's two sets of parentheses, intent /and/or mental state, close parentheses.
Right.
And I note that in the final form here, neither one had been X'd out. Both had been
You just talk about the parentheses?
I'm talking about the parentheses, yes.
Okay. I'll take them out. Okay. You know, but it doesn't make any difference. It's in the jury's copy. It doesn't change anything. The wording is the same. There's a parenthesis. It's just a matter of editing. I really don't care. It doesn't change the wording.
Okay, but
it doesn't change anything.
No, it doesn't change anything, but I think the wording does have to be dealt with at some point.
Well, the wording is the wording. It's just a matter of the parentheses I ignore when I read it, yes.
I think y'all are talking about two different things. You're talking about the actual grammar of the parens. I think Mr. Rosen is saying he wants the word and/or mental state removed.
No, it's there for a reason, because the mental state refers to the homicide.
Right.
The specific intent refers to the allegation concerning the firearm. That's why I ordered that they go back in.
Both of them?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, never mind the parentheses, then we're talking at cross purposes. Okay. What else?
If we take a look at 318.
Okay, let me get there. I'm also going through and filling out the historical portion, which hasn't been signed yet, and then when I get to 318.
Yeah, these jury instructions are going to take over two of
I replicated your historical portion.
One video that's like 2 hours and some
consistent with
still
your
left,
first
like-
draft. There were several places where you had no history, so I just left it blank and I tagged it.
Right, I've got them here.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, 318.
Okay. The word before the word statements on the first line needs to be stricken because it's pluralized and...
You have heard evidence of a statement, so A needs to be out.
A needs to be excised.
Okay, well, before we hand that into the jury, if somebody will go through that and just take out the A. It doesn't change.
No.
I mean, it's grammatically
It's just
incorrect.
grammatical.
Okay.
And then if we look at 358, we have three grammatical problems.
Okay,
Again,
hold on. I'll get to 358 in a second.
Sorry.
It's all right. Okay, I'm on 358.
Okay, 358, you have the same problem on line 3 and line 5. Statements.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay, and then in the final sentence, the word statement has to be pluralized, and the S needs to be put after the letter T.
Okay, oral statements.
Okay.
Let me see. Okay.
All right, and then if you go to 3146, there's actually...
I'll be there in a second. I just wanted to go through some other ones while I'm here.
Okay. I'm going through the rest. Between there, I don't think there's any problems with the rest.
Okay. $31.46?
Yeah.
Okay.
Simple, there's two copies.
There's two copies. Don't you want emphasis?
Not on that one. If you want to go back to reasonable doubt...
I only have one copy in my... where do you see two
I have
copies?
two here.
You may have gotten just an extra copy.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we just check to make sure that there's not two copies that are distributed to the jurors, that's all?
Okay.
If it was, so we'll pull it up. Okay, also same situation for Court Special 1. If you look at Court Special 1, and if you look at Court Special 3.
They're duplicated?
They're duplicated,
Just
yeah.
make sure they're pulled out, because I don't have that. Okay.
I think the prosecution's got the copies for the jury, so if they would just check to make sure that if they want to go with 1, that's fine, or they want to go with 3, that's fine, but not both, because it's the same instruction, same language.
I'm sorry.
Court Special Instruction 1 and Court Special Instruction 3. It's just replication of the same instruction.
Yeah, we'll pull 3 out.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Is your plan to have the jurors have their copy while you read the instructions?
It depends. Do you have a preference? It's up to you.
We just need a couple of minutes to go upstairs and make new copies.
They don't have to. You know, the bottom line is that's what's important is, in fact, it'll give them a little emphasis to listen to me, that they have them in the jury room to use when they sit down to deliberate. So
I prefer they don't. I prefer they listen to you.
that's fine.
Well, then we'll use that time to get these corrected.
Okay.
We'll make this.
Those corrections and removing those duplications, I've gone through it, they appear to be correct.
Okay.
There's a couple of additional requests that we can make. First of all, with reference
Can you
to
give me just 1 second, Mr. Clord? I'm just trying to finish the ones I have. Thank you. Correct, that's fine. One, the instruction, it doesn't make any difference.
18 months, Tiff, hell yes.
Hopefully, it is not the
That's
way it's
amazing.
reproduced.
Thank you
I
so
will
much for
say
your
that on
continued
what's
support.
being listed as Court Special
Rocking out in
Instruction
the
1
Buzz
is actually
Nation.
a defense instruction. But more importantly, I don't want the heading appearing where the jurors will read it. It should be moved so when Wendy cuts off the instructions, they're in an appropriate place.
Yeah, we would like
And I'm going to put that with 306.
That's where we want.
Yeah, that's where it belongs. So don't, I thought that was what you were going to do, so we'll
That's
do
what I
that.
thought, too. That language was supposed to go through the 6.
So I'm going to call that Defense Special Instruction 1. And we just need to make sure that it's cut off in the appropriate place. And I'll move it after 306 because it's consistent. Right.
What would be the easiest thing for Wendy, just to move the paragraph ones down?
Talk to her. She'll tell you where she needs it so she can cut it off. It actually should be above the historical box. That's where it belongs. It's the easiest to do.
Okay.
The top.
Right. Murder, it's been listed as Court Special Instruction 4, which it clearly is not. It's requested by the people. And is that the one you wanted to discuss further?
You have to put that behind 520?
Yeah, that's where it'll go.
Okay, and then also on Special Instruction 2, same thing, it's the limited use of the guns.
Right.
We'd ask that go be right after 303.
303? You know, there's no 303, I think.
Limited purpose.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. You're correct, and I'm using the old numbering system. It used to be 209, I think, so all right, I'll put it there.
303?
303 will go after 209.
I'm sorry. Special Instruction 2 is going after 303?
The instruction that concerns the guns, what I've called the Cox instruction, will go after 303.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Fuzzy Puff's been hanging out. What's
The
up, Fuzzy
People's
Puff?
requested special concerning secondary murder will go after 520.
Right. And that's going to be named People's Special Instruction, I guess we'll just call it 3.
Well, it would really, yes, what were your other two? The 306 instruction ended up being the court's, that's maybe your special instruction 1. It doesn't make any difference what we call them.
Okay.
Yeah, it does, but just for housekeeping.
Okay.
Keep it a 4, change it to a 3.
Let's make it a 3 because the other one was duplicate.
Well, what were your 1 and 2 then? Let me ask
1
you.
and 2 was defense special instruction 1.
Oh, I see what you're
Then
saying.
court special instruction, it's 2, and then
Okay.
this was prosecution instruction.
I understand. All right.
Yeah.
That's what
The
I
only
like to
problem with
hear.
doing that, people start to look for where's court's instruction 1 and 2. Maybe we should just call them special instructions.
And not number?
Yeah,
That's fine.
the history box will show
We'll leave the
who
number
requested them. Let's do it that way.
That's fine.
Defense is definitely going to have a problem with that tomorrow.
You need
I
some
thought
additional
about it overnight. I thought I would
We can get started. If I have to come in.
talk about it for the next 3
One
hours.
final thing is that,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor, we're going to talk to the court about redacting certain
Pontificate.
exhibits, but we could do that after.
We can do that anytime before they go to the jury.
Well, longer
Just
about
a
this
comment to the
bullshit.
audience, once I start to read the instructions, once the jury is brought out, no one will leave or enter until I'm done with the instructions. They'll probably take 30 or 40 minutes. If you have other plans...
That
or
means
that
2
doesn't fit
hours
with
in
your
this
schedule,
trial's time.
You have to leave. I will not be disturbed, and I don't want the jury's attention distracted in any way. It's the same for all cases, but once we start, you stay, and that's it. If you don't want to be here, you're free to leave before I start, and you can leave after I'm done, but during the reading of the instructions, the doors will be closed.
And locked.
Okay, so I want you to have that opportunity before we start, and as soon as everyone's ready, let me know. We'll bring the jurors out, and we'll
We've
do the
made
instructions.
it another video down. How long will this opening with jury instructions in the morning, which will be 53 minutes and not too far off. Now let's just count up how long we got left here. Let's count it up in real time. What are we going to be looking at tomorrow to finish this off? Jury instructions, 53 minutes. Jury deliberations, day 2, 24 minutes. Let me add this up. 53, 24. 53 plus boom. There we go. 3 plus 20. It's looking like, what are we looking at? Your day deliberations, day 3. We're looking at, that's the 2 hour 16-minute one. So we're looking at, that's putting us at about 3.5 to 3, maybe even 4 hours there. So right there is taking us into noon. Deliberations day 4. 1:45, okay. So now we're going into about 5 hours. And then the endings, I think, is like 11 minutes. So I think I'm about right. This will probably go from about 8 a.m. in the morning till about 1 in the day. And we will be Dunsky, kaput, finished with Phil Spector. In the rearview mirror, ladies and gentlemen, because Tuesday night, 8 Eastern, the same day Donna Adelson's jury selection starts, the trial of Donna Adelson starts, we're going right into her son's trial from 2023, Charlie Adelson. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's come and hang out with me, and yeah, we're going to be going through a lot of stuff. We're going to open that thing up Tuesday night with exactly how we got to these two trials, you know, really leading up to Charlie's, but it can be very helpful for Donna's as well. And we may get into the opening statements that night. So, boom! We are doing it, baby! That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Joe, definitely. That'd be a good idea, man. I understand the shyness, but yeah, get in there, dude. Get in there, pass out some cards at CrimeCon. About 2 years ago, when I was like way deeper into this, and I was working closely with Bob and Jay, and we kind of had a thing going on, and I was... Yeah, I put in an application to be at CrimeCon, and you know, I'm being honest, I've gotten grossed out by the true crime community and true crime in general since then. So I kind of just stick to the very few people that I do like, including you, and stick to myself because I think that it's flooded with the worst human beings, and they're all going to be at CrimeCon. But I think for you, it'd be badass because that's what I was going to do that first day. I was like, man, I'm going to be boots on the fucking ground. Even if I don't get accepted, I'm going to be going with Bob and Jay, you know, whatever, be out there. It didn't end up working out, but dude, make some shit up. Get some cards, and dude, definitely get out there and get that legwork in, man. It can only help you. But I'm excited about Tuesday night, folks, and excited about it in the morning, too. So come in here bright and freaking early, 8 a.m. Eastern. I've been pushing it off on Sundays to about 10. That's not going to happen in the morning. I'm not saying it won't be late. I'm not saying it won't be 8:10 or 8:15, but I'm going to be here early, extra fucking early, and it's going to be sweet. I'm excited. So yeah, I'm going to go probably watch some shit for the next few hours. I probably still won't go to bed till about 1 or 2 in the morning just because I'm broken. My brain is broken, but yeah, in the morning. I may not be, we'll see what happens. I might not be the most chipper person. I'll probably still be chipper as hell. I love you guys. Thank you all so much. Everybody that are real G's that has made it all the way through this thing. Holy fucking shit. Absolutely incredible. And yeah, let's do it. Let's do it again in the morning, 8 a.m. Love you.